Alright, Shalom Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. From the Israelite Brotherhood. Alright, Hebrews, check this out. We know, you know what I'm saying, the history. That, we got an understanding of the history. The Israelite Brotherhood making sure that, the history that we know are facts. That no lie can change. I'm talking about ain't no lie can change. The only thing that's holding this history up that the Israelite Brotherhood show the Israelite community is the the Israelites that sleep and how it's kind of slow getting around to them. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's kind of crazy how if you listen to some of those Israelite videos and them Israelites talking, man, they really ain't talking about nothing. They ain't covered none of the issues. They don't know nothing about how we broke the covenant. They don't know, you know what I'm saying? They don't even know who the Jews are. You know what I'm saying? And then they think everybody is Israelites. You know what I'm saying? So, man, it's a lot going on. But we know that the Israelite Brotherhood then established some facts in the Israelite community that can't be changed. Now I'm talking, I don't care how much you cry and whine and be in denial about it, it ain't gonna change. And sooner or later, people gonna have to start coming around and start living with this truth. This is the only truth, and I give praise to Almighty Yah for allowing me and then representing the Israelite Brotherhood to get this message out to my brothers and sisters. No matter where you at and what we've been through, we got the truth now. We got the truth now, and we know what happened to us. And then what happened to us is plainly in the Tanakh is just opening your eyes to, what's going on and what we did. All right, Hebrews, man, this some history, that I'm going to show you, man, this history, what I'm saying? We know this facts that no lie can change, that we Israelites broke the covenant during the Babylonian wars, and how I didn't establish that that's one of the quietest history on the face of this earth, and man, I know one of my Facebook friends, what I'm saying, I think his name Lieberman, what I'm saying, how, he had said, man, there's tons of information, man, about the Israelites going into Africa. Man, I said, okay, well, show me, and I'm going to be waiting. And a few days went by. And then I guess he acknowledged that what I said was right. There is no documented history besides what the Israelite Brotherhood showing that the Hebrews ran into Africa during the Babylonian Wars. That's plainly in Tanakh. And I'm sure our Jewish counterpart understand this. They understand what happened during the Babylonian Wars. And I guess that they knew this day of reckoning was going to come. And it's here now. And we're going to have to deal with this Israelite issue. The Israelite issue is solvable. You see, that's the good thing. The Israelite issue is solvable basically with no damage. With no damage. But I tell you this, that it's best to settle this Israelite issue with the Israelite Brotherhood, for the simple fact is that if they don't, what's happening now, Ashkenazi, if you hear me, Ashkenazi, that they turning the Sephardi's now. I just seen some Ashkenazis on board with this. I don't know what kind of power or what kind of authority that they got, or if they part of the plan. That how that, man, they turning the black Jews. I don't know how they gonna put a break on it, or how many tribes they gonna try to turn in the Israelites, but how they turning the black Jews that didn't fulfill none of the curses, wasn't in no type of captivity, into Israelites. You know what I'm saying? And then they ain't been smart of late with their actions, because if they turning the Africans into Israelites, and then these ignorant, even if they come in under Judaism, and then if these ignorant Negroes that's called the Israelites, that's called Negroes, wake up, and then realize that we Israelites, and then we, you know what I'm saying, that's like me. I could damage them. You know what I'm saying? I could damage them. All they got to do is start saying that the Africans are Israelites, and then make all the Africans Israelites, and then every African in the whole African continent get to come to the promised land and call that the promised land. And ain't no nuclear bomb on this earth gonna stop that if it's in the will, in the heart of the peoples to do such. But we ain't lying, and we ain't finna lie to ourselves, and we ain't finna play with this covenant. So if you hearing Ashkenazi, y'all best to settle this Israelite issue through the Israelite Brotherhood, because the Israelite Brotherhood gonna filter out the people that are not Israelites. You know what I'm saying? And then being that, we know that the Creator sent for Ashkenazi to chase us out the promised land during the Babylonian wars, and we know that Almighty Yah say he gonna stick us in the mountains and stuff. So then evidently Ashkenazi in the Sephardics and them still gonna have them apart there. And then we know that the promised land belonged to the Amorites, the Sephardics, from the beginning, before we Israelites even came out of Africa. But how about this, Ashkenazi, if you're listening, that we need to settle this Israelite issue through the Israelite Brotherhood, and not none of these other Israelite organizations, because they don't have a clue what's going on. And I pray to Almighty Yah that this one ingredient that I'm needing and been praying for can come to fruition, and then we're going to take it up, to another level. We're going to take it to another level. But how about that they need to settle this Israelite issue through the Israelite Brotherhood, and that how that we're going to filter out the people that's claiming the Israelite heritage, and then that if we get in the promised land through the Israelite Brotherhood, that everybody is not going to the promised land that claim a Israelite heritage, and how we're going to put the brakes on it. We're going to put the brakes on it, and how everybody ain't coming to the, promised land that's claiming the Israelite heritage, because everybody that claim an Israelite heritage are not Israelites. That's like my videos exposing the recent conspiracies that they trying to unleash on us, man. How they delete the African videos. I have to sneak them in and give them all kind of slick titles and stuff, because if I speak about the African Jews and so forth, and how they delete them videos and make it where you got to be over 21, you know what I'm saying, to view the videos, 18 to 21 to view the videos, probably got to send them some ID and stuff, and then how I don't be doing no cussing in none of the videos, and then how that they don't want that plot exposed, that they finna unspring on us, because these Israelites are waking up here in captivity, and the vast majority of us, the Israelites that's woke, are still attached to a Christian heritage, still attached to a Christian heritage, being that they believe in the New Testament and demigods. So the enemies are trying to hurry up and usher in, you know what I'm saying, they playing with the black Jews who are acknowledged as being part of Judaism, and then they gonna connect with them black Israelites that's doing Christianity, you know what I'm saying, in the camps, and then they gonna, you know what I'm saying, guide them on in through Judaism, and then how that they might can't get past, you know what I'm saying, Africa, because they got to go to them African tribes and be reunited with them, and then go through their Judaism through them tribes and stuff, and that how that they ain't finna never be connected to the promised land, and then being that they coming in under false history, they might end up in the desert with them other Israelites that escaped the harshness of the United States in the 60s, the ones that left, that Almighty Yah didn't call us out of captivity, but how they escaped, and then, you know what I'm saying, and made it to Africa and then snuck across the borders and to the promised land. I just showed you where they recently did a video with the brother, and then how the brother say that, you know what I'm saying, that when we come into the promised land, that how we came in through the how we come into the promised land, and then how we left during the during 70 AD when Herd Edomite temple was destroyed. This brother right here, you know what I'm saying, this brother right here, and you know what I'm saying, like I say, man, I done tried to talk to these brothers, and man, they ain't trying to, you know what I'm saying, they don't want to come off they false doctrines. This brother right here, you know what I'm saying, he say that we ran into Africa in 70 AD, skipping across the Sinai Mountain, swimming across the Red Sea, ducking on off into Ethiopia, and then ran on down to Nigeria with the people that enslaved us and stuff. You know, the Igabos, and that. Then he explained how them Israelites got Israelite practices and customs and stuff, and we know that circumcision and that wasn't just, you know, a Israelite thing, and that a whole lot of nations and tribes and stuff practice circumcision for cleanliness reasons, and it's saying this, you know, with the women going to separate parts from the men when they come on a menstrual cycles. You know, any civilized society going, you know, have those in issue, you know what I'm saying, that in place, you know, in those times. You know, we know in modern times that it's, you know, a little, you know what I'm saying, that they can do things different, but they had cleaning practices, and that's like fringes. You know, a lot of Israelites, men think because the natives had fringes that they was Israelites. They say, oh, they had fringes, and they Israelites because they had fringes. Man, these Israelites be toe up in the mind with that Jewish history. They just don't know. You know, I ain't knocking them and stuff. They just don't know. But the Israelite Brotherhood gonna, you know, get the Israelite history clear. But how about those, you know, people that got the fringes, that they just had that, you know, to help them get the water off their clothes and dry their clothes a little faster, that buckskin and stuff. And how I explain, ain't no Israelites made it to the Americas before the transatlantic slave trade because of the technology that we had on making window glass. I'm talking about, we had glass windows in the Tanakh. Glass windows. Matter of fact, one of the kings fell through his window, Zaria or something like that. Man, the king fell through his top window, man, that he had in the top of his house. Man, he had a top window, and he fell through it and was ill, and then went and asked the enemies, man, about their God or what's gonna happen to him, and I think he ended up dying. But the point is how we had glass, we had axles, we had domesticated animals. Ain't no way in the world we Israelites would have been over here in the Americas and then not domesticated some buffaloes. You'd have been seeing a Hebrew riding around on a buffalo. I'm here to tell you, if we would have had 1,000 years of contact with the buffalo, as the natives had thousands of years before the conquistadors, the Europeans, bring the technology that they got from us Israelites over here to the Americas, and how that the natives ain't domesticated none of the animals, and how that you would have seen the Israelite riding around on the buffalo. You know what I'm saying? We'd have tamed them buffaloes 1,000 years contact with some buffaloes. We would have tamed every buffalo in America, in them, everything else. We'd have tamed all the animals. We would have domesticated them. You know what I'm saying? You'd have seen a brother riding through the woods, you know what I'm saying, on the buffalo with some nappy hair, with some locks. In the buffalo with some nappy hair and some locks. You would have seen that. And then you would have seen us with axles, axle in the wheel. You would have seen us with a wheel and the axle and carts. We'd have had buffaloes driving carts. You know what I'm saying? We'd have been racing buffaloes. You know what I'm saying? We'd have been doing all kind of stuff. So we know there ain't no Israelites made it to the Americas before the transatlantic slave trade, because we build houses. The houses that you have now, we built them houses. These houses style, we built these houses a long time ago in the promised land. You know what I'm talking about? Projects, man. We've been had projects and all kind of stuff. So, you know, we know that the Israelites didn't make it to the Americas before the transatlantic slave trade. You know, these are facts. These are facts that can't be changed, because you can look in the Tanakh and see the culture that we was exposed to. Man, it's like, you know, a lot of them natives, you know, I guess they thought I was going to push a native. You know, I'll post on their site how the Israelites ran into Africa, and then they'll come to the site. You know, I see a whole bunch of subscribers, and then guess what? After they see what type of history I'm showing, man, they get on down. You know what I'm saying? Only the strong gonna survive with me. Only the real Israelites. My history is designed to shake the fakes out. Now, if you just love the Israelite Brotherhood and you supporting the Israelite Brotherhood in the Israelite community by learning this history, and you ain't claiming to be an Israelite, much love to you. The Israelite Brotherhood got much love to you. But if you a fake and you been pretending to be an Israelite, wait till you run across one of them videos, because I cover the whole history. Ain't no getting away from the Israelite Brotherhood with this Israelite history. It's over with. The days of walking over Israelites with the Israelite history is over. It is over. That's the past. But how did you people that's claiming the Israelite heritage, and you gonna find out if you an Israelite if you listen to my history, because if you listen to my history and you a real Israelite, you gonna stick around, because you gonna know that this is, man, this the only truth right now. Matter of fact, this is the only truth. If you ain't showing the history that I'm showing from the Tanakh, and then the world history with it, like the Assyrians, the Scythians, Ashkenazi, and talking about the people that we interacted with in the Tanakh history, and if you ain't talking about that, then you ain't talking about no truth. So if you a real Israelite, you gonna stick around with me, because you know that this history, you know, line up with world history, and that is correct. But if you a fake and you ain't no real Israelite, you gonna get on down, because it's gonna hurt you. This gonna hurt you. This history that I'm showing gonna hurt you. It got to shake you off, because if you pretend to be an Israelite, then you know that ain't good for us. Because if you pretend to be an Israelite and you're not really an Israelite, then that means that you're gonna be susceptible to the false history that our enemies can throw our way to entrap us and throw us off course and all kind of stuff. And if you ain't a real Israelite, you would derail the Israelite people coming into our heritage. So the history that I show is designed to cut the fakes out. You know, it's designed to cut the fakes out. Ain't no getting away. So, you know, if you listen to the history that I show, and then you ain't no real Israelite, you gonna get on down unless you love us and you supporting truth. Other than that, you gonna take off. You gonna take off. And a lot of them do. Alright, Hebrews, you know, the facts that we know, that can't be changed, that show that we are Israelites. Like I say, during the Babylonian Wars, that's one of the quietest history. Man, it seemed like they all knew that every last one of the people that we abandoned our heritage to knew. Of course, they knew that we went into Africa during the Babylonian Wars, because they were still around. They didn't go into Africa with us. And how that they was all quiet about that. And then it makes sense why Ashkenazi wouldn't mention the Israelites going into Africa during the Babylonian Wars, is because man, the same thing. It would expose what's going on. That's like this one Hebrew. Man, I love me Hebrews, and you already know when the Israelite Brotherhood starting to get established and everything, how you gonna, you know what I'm saying, you on, brother, because you know that you be supporting the Israelite Brotherhood and getting this message out. You know who you is. But look here, the brother showed this the other day. And that's like, you know, me and the Facebook took a lot of history. Man, I'm surprised, man, all praise be Almighty Yah, that they didn't block me all the way and just block me off Facebook, period. You know what I'm saying? And then it's a known fact that, you know what I'm saying, the history that I was showing on this site called Top X, it killed Top X, man. They couldn't delete the history. They couldn't delete the history. They had, I guess, an old mainframe or something where they couldn't delete the history or something. And then they can, you know, complain about you and make complaints and stuff. And the moderator might get in there, but it was so many thousands of pages. But I was on the Israelite page and I documented a lot of history. That's like, it kind of hurt me when Topics took the site down, because, man, I had a whole bunch of history that I had documented, man, about how all the tribes that the Jews documented, all in Europe and so forth, all the people that they man, converted. That's like, I mean, there was some folks in Armenia that went to the promised land, a woman, a Jewish woman that converted to Judaism. I forgot her name. And then how she went to Jerusalem and built a palace and a whole bunch of stuff. And man, how a whole bunch of converts would find their way into the promised land throughout the Jews' history, and how I had documented that, and then how that whole site went down. You know what I'm saying? And they took that site off. And man, I had a lot of history, you know what I'm saying, stored there, about a good 6 years, 5 years worth of history. And then it's basically the history that you Israelites be getting them from the years that I used to be in this chat room with these other Israelites, and then how, you know, I got to it. You know what I'm saying? I seen what happened and how we broke the covenant during the Babylonian Wars, and then I started searching for history that would correlate with the Israelites going into Africa. And then when I got the understanding of the exiles history and the prophets, and then I realized that the Israelites never made it out of Africa. They went in to do the Egyptian worship, the Queen of Heaven worship, and how they never made it back to the promised land to be reunited with the exiles that come back 50 years later, 60 years later. And then how did we didn't come back when the Greeks came or when the Romans came, and how like hundreds of years are passed by that the covenant breakers had went into Africa. And then I, you know, show how, you know, it wasn't no 10 lost tribes, and you know what I'm saying, how all the tribes went into Africa. So, you know, if all the tribes went into Africa during the Babylonian Wars, and then they didn't write about it, and then, man, that's it. And then I started looking around in Africa, who was all doing the Queen of Heaven worship. You see how enemies slip up, even though they give the people different names in the Sahara, they still explain who was doing the Egyptian worship and so forth. And then, man, out of all the tribes in Africa, man, it all boiled it down to the Grammentians. The Grammentians were the Israelites that broke the covenant during the Babylonian Wars, that went into Africa to live. And that name Grammentian come from the Greeks. And then was some hated peoples in the Sahara. I'm talking about they was hated by all the Europeans, but especially the Greeks and the Romans, because we robbed them. We robbed them, and they called us robbers and killers and so forth. And then how did that hatred would go all the way to the transatlantic slave trade, as I proved that they had a slave, a captured Israelite that they called Grammentian, that helped them cure smallpox and so forth. And then how did that history was there, and how that they ain't never spoke about that until now, because they'll sneak some little history out on us when they think everybody's asleep and don't know what's going on and so forth. And how that Grumentian is gonna be what we were. And then, like I say, that if you was captured man in Africa and you were sold from Nigeria or Ghana, that's what they'll probably call you. But how you was probably originally was one of those Grumentians or the tribes associated with it that, start leaving the Sahara and going into more fertile lands when the water dried up in the Sahara. As we know that that's a curse that Almighty Yah said that he will pursue you, that the curses will pursue you no matter where you go. No matter where you go, the curse is coming after you when the covenant was broken. And we see that, you know what I'm saying, manifesting in Africa, which, turn it to the transatlantic slave trade. Our contact and hassles with the African tribes, caused us to get enslaved. And how I got that documented too, but that's like I say, Israelites, I show history that's facts. They can't be changed. Look, this is Deuteronomy 28. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Elohim thy Yah, to keep his commandments and his statutes. And then it's like, I was talking about how that they trying to make them Africans, the people that didn't go into the transatlantic slave trade as Israelites. And then one of the main things that would be, that's like we focus on Deuteronomy 28, but how about Leviticus? Leviticus, tell you about the curses and what would happen, you know what I'm saying, if the covenant was broken. And how that it ain't just about Deuteronomy 28, you know what I'm saying, and then how Almighty God had made the curses in Leviticus say that you would pain away and suffer away in the enemy's land if the covenant was broken. You know what I'm saying? If the covenant was broken, how that you would waste away in the enemy's land. You know what I'm saying? In the book of Leviticus. And then if you look at these curses that Prophet Moses say that will be on the Israelites from the book of Deuteronomy, you'll see that the Africans don't even fit none of them curses. None of them curses. They don't fit none of them curses. So why come the Africans ain't fitting the curses? Is because they are not the Israelites in the Tanakh. They ain't the Israelites in the Tanakh. And can't nothing change that. Ain't nothing gonna change that. Look, this is one of the curses. See, we always focus on Deuteronomy, but they're outlined also in Leviticus 26. And one of them say, and ye shall perish among the heathen, and the land of your enemies shall eat you up. Now, why come them Africans ain't being ate up in Africa and being enslaved? And then, like I say, we are a unique people that it ain't finna be no thousands of us in Africa, and we don't, you know what I'm saying, try to take the whole Africa over and take everything over. That's just how we are. Almighty Yah created us for that purpose. We his army. So if we somewhere and we ain't in captivity or have a strenuous oppressor over us, then we gonna do the thing. And like I explained, it ain't no Israelites was left in Africa after the transatlantic slave trade, and how Africa got its borders from the League of Nations, dividing Africa up, and each one of those European nations looked and searched to see if there was any Israelites in Africa. They sent missionaries everywhere. And then that's like another thing. Hebrews, when them Israelites be saying, we left in 70 AD. We left in 70 AD, and then how we went across the Sinai, and then dived into the Red Sea and swam on across to Africa and went on to Nigeria. Now him telling that lie, saying that he left in 70 AD, would say that the Israelites was exposed to Jesus. Now he would say that we was, you know what I'm saying, he's saying that we exposed to Jesus. Whenever you Israelites say that we went into Africa in 70 AD, and then you telling a lie, because then the Israelites would have been exposed to them Jesus, not just one Jesus, but a whole bunch of them. You know what I'm saying? We would have been exposed to all these Jesuses right here. All these Jesus right here, we would have been exposed to in 70 AD, because all of them was around before then. You see what I'm saying? So we would have been exposed to all them Jesus, and then we would have went into Africa speaking Hebrew. You see what I'm saying? And then we would have been doing Judaism. When the Jews captured us and enslaved us, we would have been doing Judaism, and then how that would have stuck out like a sore thumb, and then how that all that is false, and that how we never ran into Africa in 70 AD, and how that those were the Edomites right here. Like these guys are Edomites that I'm showing you. All these Jesus are Edomites, or Sephardim. Those gonna be Sephardi's mixed with the Edomite Arab tribes, and that's what, you know, Jesus, you know, was around, and you know, in the parts where all them was. So, you know, we didn't go into Africa in 70 AD, because if we had, then we would have been known about Jesus before the transatlantic slave trade. And it's a known fact that didn't no Israelite come over to the Americas knowing anything about no Jesus. No Jesus. It would have been documented somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Because they took slaves somewhere everywhere. It would have been hard to keep that a secret if everybody's everywhere. You know what I'm saying? And how no Israelites believed in no Jesus. So we didn't have no contact with none of them folks in 70 AD. And how I showed that the people in 70 AD come from the occupiers that occupied our land after we ran into Africa, and then after the exiles were destroyed, and how it was just a few of them. I'm gonna have to do another video on the exiles and how that they only live in a certain area in Jerusalem, and how the Israelites were among them, and how the Creator wasn't calling the northern kingdom by their names no more, because it was over with, and how that they lived in Judah's inheritance, and then how that they started to pass the heritage off to the enemies, and then that what made the Greeks come in. Remember, we Israelites cannot share covenant land with nobody, and then, you know, especially not the Greeks. We was tricked into sharing the land with the enemies that we was supposed to destroy. You know, I was finna read some of that in the book of Judges. You know, I was reading about how that we didn't drive out all those Amorite tribes, and then I showed, you know, in Tanakh history. I just recently did a video of how the Amorites tricked us, the Gabonites tricked us, coming to us with dirty clothes, telling a lie. So we know our enemies would tell a lie, because they told a lie from the beginning to getting our heritage, when they say that they come from a long way when they was really close by, and how that they deceived us, and how that they been in our heritage ever since, the Amorites. You know what I'm saying? And the Amorites, man, it's gonna be them self-hardest, you know, that control the Israelite heritage now. Man, it's gonna be these folks right here. And then how that I done walked the history down. Now, that's like I say, it's a wrap on this Israelite history, and how that we need to go into some type of negotiating phase. When it's enough Israelites wake up and start backing the Israelite Brotherhood, then we gonna go into some negotiation phase, because they gonna have to come on down, because if we start letting the world know that we the real Israelites and what happened, then the clock ticking on them, and they ain't gonna have too long, man, before the world reject them on everything. And them having a nuclear bomb ain't gonna do no good if the whole world know about this Israelite issue. That's why I say that the Israelite issue need to be settled, because if it be settled, and then that's the end of it, we don't have to worry about the Israelite issue no more, and how that's took care of, and then how the people from the transatlantic slave trade can't be crying that they Israelites, and then how that'll be a done thing, because we'll know, because we'll be established where we supposed to be. And that's why I say that they need to come and work with the Israelite Brotherhood one day to settle this Israelite issue, because it can be settled, but it can only be settled through the Israelite Brotherhood, because if they try to elevate some other individuals to try to settle this Israelite issue, it ain't gonna never be settled, because it ain't gonna be based on truth and so forth. That's like I say, that's why this history that I show, it is supposed to shake the fakes off. It's supposed to shake the fakes off, so we Israelites can come into our heritage right and not be misled by the people that are really not Israelites. Some of you people, your whole life you thought you was an Israelite, and you've been raised to believe that you was an Israelite, and this is startling information to you. Some of you gonna block it out and don't want to hear it, because it's gonna give you a headache. You're gonna hurt, man, and it's gonna bother you, because your whole life you've been thinking that you was an Israelite, and now the time has come and it's showing that you ain't. You see, so man, that's why I say that this Israelite issue gonna have to be settled through the Israelite Brotherhood, because if not, the people that think that they are Israelites gonna misguide the people, and they ain't gonna never come into their heritage, and then this Israelite issue gonna continuous go on, and we don't want that. Almighty Yah ain't gonna let that happen. He ain't gonna let this Israelite issue just continuously go on decade after decade. It's coming to an end with the history that I'm showing, because I'm showing who the real Israelites are, and how we broke covenant for Egyptian religion and ran into Africa, and how they can be changed. And then, like I say, if you didn't go through the transatlantic slave trade, you ain't gonna be no Israelite. And then how I explain in countless videos, like I say, they be trying to, they blocking the African black Jews videos, because I show how they come from Yemen and then went over into Ethiopia, and then down into Zimbabwe, and then the Nigerians gonna come from the Sephardims, coming from Spain and so forth. They gonna be maybe a creation after 70 AD, the Spain groups, and then but how they all trace their heritage to the Jews in Yemen. Man, I got some history showing all them fakes. The people that are not really Israelites, but been claiming the Israelite heritage for a long time. All these right here. Jews of Western Africa, Megaherby descent, especially the Jewish communities in Nigeria, Igbo, the Igbos, Megaherb, West African Jewish community in Nigeria also claim descent from the Yemenite, Moroccan, and East African Jewish community. Those are Edom. Those are the Sephardim. That's the Sephardim. The Megaherdim, Meskerhim, Tananim, Sephardim, Limba, Ethiopian Jews, Beta Israel, Ashkenazim, Benat, Osnium, I'm saying, all them, been connected to the Edomites. Now they never lost their heritage. And then those are Those are the Jews that they want the Israelites to come into their heritage, man, up under those folks now. That's the thing. And then, like I say, that if they didn't go through the curses and fit the curses that was issued to the Israelites for breaking covenant, then there ain't gonna be no Israelite. There ain't gonna be no Israelites. And then how that I explained that with Tanakh history, specifically the Torah, how it was impossible to do the covenant off the promised land. Ain't no Israelites was driven from the promised land for doing the covenant, and then they able to go settle in all these different parts of the world doing the covenant with books, covenant books, and everything, and keeping the practices of the Israelites. And then how did they doing all this off covenant land? That's false. That's not true. And those people are not Israelites, because they all come from conversions, from the Edomites converting folks everywhere, doing trade routes. I got videos showing, what I'm saying, the Jewish trade routes, meaning how did they trade it everywhere, what I'm saying, all over. And then them people, that was converted on those trade routes is going to be the peoples that's claiming Israelite heritage today, and how that's not cool. And that's why come the history that I show is going to shake them loose. It's supposed to. And how only the real going to ride, what I'm saying, with the Israelite brotherhood. But you see all them lines right there. All those lines will show where the trade routes. Those are trade routes, and you see how West Africa is heavily traded by the Randanites. Those are Jewish merchants. They had the ships too. And then it's like I say in one video, how people real stupid and say, where is the slave ships that y'all was on? Like somebody real stupid and stuff. And then knowing that the merchants could turn the slave ships into cargo ships or slave ships, because they've been building and working on ships forever. And then they was able to do that in the transatlantic slave trade. After they enslaved us, immediately turned the ships back into cargo ships, because now they had to take cotton and all the products that the slaves captivated over here in the West to these other folks. Man, we ain't dealing with no stupid people. We ain't dealing with no people stupid that enslaved us. And how did the people that enslaved us had thousands of years of governing, and how did they real smart, and then how that after they enslaved us, and then they turned the slave ships into cargo ships, because they was getting plenty goods and cargoes from the Americas. So you stupid people that be talking about where the slave ships at, what I'm saying, you real stupid. What I'm saying? That's like I explained, man, about the black slave owners, how they say it was black folks owned y'all. Black folks owned you in the slavery days. Man, you can get on out of here with them lies now, because we know that there was the Sephardims that had pigmentation in the Moors and them type of Hamites that owned the slaves and so forth, because they participated in the slave trade. So of course you're gonna have some black slave owners, but they wasn't Israelites. You see, we making the difference now, and then we ain't accepting the history that the enemy show. They can come with all kind of history all day, telling us men about Africa. Man, they can come with all kind of history, and it just don't mean nothing, because if it ain't coming out the Tanakh or a certified, qualified Israelite organization, then it's false to me. I ain't gonna even play with it, because I know our enemies ain't never told the truth. Ain't never told the truth. And then how you know that they ain't never told the truth is because from the day that we abandoned the covenant, they could have told the truth and say, hey man, the Israelites went into Africa you know what I'm saying, to do the Egyptian religion, the people that we abandoned our heritage to, the Amorites. They could have said, hey man, they went into Africa to do the Egyptian religion. And how did they never did that? So, you know, if they ain't gonna tell no truth about that, then how was they gonna tell some truth, man, about us being all these different folks, men in Africa, and then be truthful to us over here in the Americas in captivities? Their whole struggle has been to keep from telling the truth. And they've been successful up to now by the grace of Almighty Yah, because we got to come in the heritage. We got to come in the heritage. This history gonna set us free. If you listen to the Israelite Brotherhood and you a real Israelite, you're gonna be set free. You're gonna be set free, and how the enemies is not gonna have no more control over your mind. He ain't gonna have no control over your mind when I finish with you, because I'm gonna make sure that you're gonna come into your heritage and you're gonna have some history that can't be changed. You know what I'm saying? Look, the Israelite history that we know are facts that no lie can change. We broke the covenant during the Babylonian Wars, and that we know who the Jews are. We know who the Jews are. Ain't no question about who the Jews are. We know who they is. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got Ashkenazi name up here, but we know who the Jews are. Ain't no getting around that no more. Ain't no getting around that no more. So if we know who the Jews are, and then it's both of them. That's like I got a video, man. I got a video, man, explaining how the head Jewish rabbis got the Israelite heritage. You know, people don't hardly watch them videos, but I cover our history all which way that you think. I'm coming that way. You know what I'm saying? And I'm getting it done. All right, so we see that Ashkenazi, it's the Scythians and history. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to fool people that don't know and say, oh, Ashkenazi is Germany. Ashkenazi is Germany. How about Ashkenazi name? It is an ethnic pointer name, that it points to an ethnic group, and that how the Ashkenazi existed way over here in Assyria times and in the Syria records way before Germany even existed, but how that Germany was a Scythian homeland. You know, that the Scythians hung out there. That's like the Sebhard. They'll say Sebhard means Spain. Sebhard means shepherd. Sebhard means Sebhards means Spain. And how that's false, and that how Sebhard, a scribe, and then the Sephardim is an ethnic group, an ethnic pointer term, mean before Spain and Portugal was even had its name, that how these peoples existed already, and how we had already chronicalized their names in Tanakh history, and how that the Sephardims come from Sippar, the Babylonian part of the Amorite heritage that extended from the Promised Land all the way to Mesopotamia. That's like one Israelite, you know what I'm saying? They be thinking that they be slick, and thinking that they be slick and trying to undermine some history, because some Israelites be jealous when you be showing some history and they know it's true, and then they be like, dang man, I ain't get a chance to show everybody this, so now I'm gonna hate on this history. You know what I'm saying? That's how Israelites is until they come into the truth. But how about one Israelite say, man, show the sources. I'm the source. I'm the source. I done read thousands of books, and it's not one single book that I read that point to our Israelite heritage, that say, hey, they are the Israelites that ran into Africa, and how I had to decipher through all those thousands of books to put this history together, and how not one book, not 10 books, or not 100 books point to that we ran into Africa, or that, you know what I'm saying, dealing with that, and that how all this history that I showed the Israelite community is the maturity from reading all the thousands of books and all the thousands of hours of studying, and how they like Ain't no one dang source that I can point to you to say, hey, this is where you go look. I tell you to look in the Tanakh because that's what I use as my foundation. But how did I know this history? And I'm showing you, you go look and you go dig through the history. I done told you that the Ashkenazi name was Scythian, and that Scythian come in with the Chaldeans and made up the Chaldean army when they destroyed Nineveh, and how that they was with the Babylonians when they destroyed us and chased us into Africa. That's common sense. The enemy will tell you this, but he ain't gonna tell you that Ashkenazi chased the Israelites into Africa. He gonna say Scythian, and then they gonna word it, you know what I'm saying, kind of crazy. And then the enemy ain't gonna tell you that the Sephardim is the Sephardic Jews and how we abandon our heritage to them. You can kiss their tail on that. They ain't finna tell you that. So me trying to say, well, show me the sources. I'm the source. I'm the source. I'm the source. You know, I'm the source. Get used to it. You Hebrews that be crying and be looking for holes in the history, you ain't finna find no hole here. You can go lay it down. You know what I'm saying? You can go chop your head off, because this history is what finna take the whole Israelite community over when the Israelites understand that I have history to show what happened to us that's clear. All right, Hebrews. Man, we got history that's facts, you know, now, you know what I'm saying? We know we ran into Africa during the Babylonian wars. You know, that's a fact. We know who the Jews are. We know the Africans are not Israelites. We know the people that didn't go through the transatlantic slave trade and that are not descended from them are not Israelites, because you don't meet the curses, you know, and that how our history line up with Tanakh from the day that the covenant was broke to our captivity now, and ain't no holes in it. But how you people that's claiming the Israelite heritage got holes in your history, and how that we ain't finna have you, you know, claiming the Israelite history, Israelite heritage damaging us. That's why I come when them people be saying, I'm an Israelite too. How you get to be an Israelite is what you need to ask them. And then when they come off the 10 lost tribe, or we ran into Africa, and man, it's easy to chop that down, man. You're gonna have to bust their bubble. We Israelites gonna have to start busting people bubbles on this Israelite history, and that's how we starting to take our history back, because we got clear history showing what happened, showing that we broke the covenant for Egyptian religion. So now all we got to do is start taking our history back and start telling them folks, you ain't an Israelite. It's gonna catch up sooner or later if enough of us start doing it. Hey, you ain't no Israelite. If you didn't go into Africa during the Babylonian wars and then get caught up in the transatlantic slave trade, then you're not an Israelite. You ain't no Israelite. You know, you ain't no Israelite. You know, I don't care how much you cry and how much you hurt. You know, the truth is supposed to set you free too. You know, then you free from that Israelite burden. And how we got a big burden on our shoulders as Israelites. And it's like a lot of Israelites gonna try to duck waking up to an Israelite heritage here in the Americas in captivities, because it, man, is just a lot of weight put on your shoulder, man. It's like putting a dump truck on your shoulders. You know what I'm saying? And it's a lot of weight to carry, because it's a lot of things that an Israelite's supposed to resist and not do that is accepted by these Negroes, these Israelites that's called Negroes and African Americans, and how that they not just accepted all the wickedness of the Canaanite culture. That's like now, you know, that Biden and that Harris lady then got in. Man, don't you know that they finna let every gay right movement in existence get some powers, and it might not be too long Men, before the gays be surrounding your house like in the biblical days, because they finna have the power. They finna have the power now. And that how did that lady Harris, that she just ain't no representation for the Israelites, you know, the folks, the black Americans, the Israelites to call black Americans that's living in a delusion. She might represent them, but us real Israelites, man, we don't have no representation in captivity. And that how the Israelite Brotherhood is trying to be our representation. Alright, Hebrews, you know what I'm saying? Like I say, man, we know, you know what I'm saying, the Africans are not Israelites because they don't meet the curses. You know, Prophet Moses knew, even Almighty Yah knew we would break the covenant, and then once the covenant was broken, we would have to get up off the land. And then once up off the land, we will be subjected to the curses that you couldn't escape. So, you know, how in the world did these Africans, these black Jews, miss captivity and being enslaved when it was acknowledged by the Creator that He knew that we would break covenant? All right, this is Deuteronomy 31:16. And the Elohim said unto Moses, Behold, thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, and this people will rise up and go a whoring after the gods of the strangers of the land, whether they go to be among them, and will forsake me and break my covenant which I have made with them. And breaking covenant, it is rejecting the covenant. You know, we was transgressing it, meaning that, you know, we was doing things within the covenant, you know what I'm saying? We was doing wrong, robbing and stealing, but still saying, I love Almighty Yah. But then we broke the covenant by saying that we wanted Egyptian religion and then running off the land. That's breaking the covenant. And that's what we did. So, you know, once covenant was broken, that Almighty Yah had already set out the curses, and that how no Israelites could escape the curses. Especially when He said this, look, and the Elohim said unto Moses, Behold, thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, and this people will rise up and go a whoring after the gods of the strangers of the land, whether they go to be among them, and will forsake me and break my covenant which I have made with them. Then my anger shall be kindled against them in that day, and I will forsake them, and I will hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured, and many evils and troubles shall befall them. So how in the world did these black Jews didn't get the evils, the evils and being devoured? How did they miss that? How did they miss being devoured and having evils on them? How did they miss it? How did anybody miss it that's claiming the Israelite heritage that didn't go through the transatlantic slave trade? How y'all missed the curses? How y'all missed the evils that Almighty Yah say will be on the Israelites when the covenant was broken? And you can't say that you didn't suffer the evils when they was outlined, and then we know that we people in the transatlantic slave trade been living them for 400 years. For 400 years, look, then my anger shall be kindled against them in that day, and I will forsake them, and I will hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured, and many evils and troubles shall befall them, so that they shall say in that day, Are not all these evils come upon us, because our Yah is not among us? And I will surely hide my face in that day, for all the evils which they have wrought in that day they are turned unto other gods. And that's what we did during the Babylonian Wars. When we said that we want to worship the Egyptian religion and that we did better. I already explained in plenty of videos how Egypt, Pharaoh was so low down. Pharaoh so low down and so wicked and evil. Not this one, but the Pharaoh that gave Joseph Asenath, the priest of On daughter, and that how from that union, you know, that they would have two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And then I show that up on Exodus that how some Egyptians left with us. Man, some Egyptians left with us, and then I can even show that how this Israelite that didn't have no sons, that an Egyptian, you know what I'm saying, male, you know, have his daughter, and then that they had kids and so forth, and that wasn't no good thing. Look, and a mixed multitude went up also with them, and flocks and herds, and very much cattle. So them gonna be the folks that's gonna leave. Them Egyptians gonna leave with us, and then how we know is because when Prophet Moses go to get the law, that them Egyptians asked us to worship the golden calf, men and so forth, and then we did that, and then that brought Almighty Yah's wrath down on us, you know. That brought Almighty Yah wrath down on us, man, for us doing that. You know what I'm saying? Look, here go these Egyptians. Now, this is one of the reasons why we breaking covenant. That's why come I say that we can't have no fakes with us, people that's claiming Israelite heritage that are not Israelites. That's why come this history is hard on them. It's hard on the fakes because we can't let the Israelites get into the heritage because something like this will happen, you know. And now Shushan had no sons but daughters, and Shushan had a servant. This is 2 Chronicles 2, verse 35. And Shushan had gave his daughter to Jerah, his servant, to wife, and she bore him Atta. You see, now this is an Egyptian. You know what I'm saying? Dude, look. Now, Shushan had no sons, but daughters. And Shushan had a servant, an Egyptian, whose name was Jarha. You see Jarha right there. You know what I'm saying? And Shushan gave his daughter to Jarha, his servant, to wife. And she bore him Atta. And Atta begat Nathan. And Nathan begat Zebed. And Zebed, see, go all the way down and stuff. But you see how did them Egyptians left with us. And then it wasn't no good thing because the tribe of Ephraim kept in association with the Egyptians. You know, the tribe of Ephraim kept in association with the Egyptians as established with Jeroboam running into Egypt, being chased by Solomon, and then he would be in Egypt among his relatives. You know, the Egyptians, because the tribe of Ephraim and Manasseh, you know what I'm saying, mixed with the Egyptians. You know what I'm saying? I can show this. I can show this easy. Alright. Alright, so we go to Genesis. That'll be Genesis 41. And Pharaoh called Joseph named Zephaniah, and he gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter Potipori, priest of On, and the priest of On is the Egyptians' original religious spot where their original gods come from. These are the original Egyptians right here that we dealing with, and we will be given one of the original Egyptians, the people that founded the Egyptian dynasties. We will be given one of their daughters. You know, Joseph was, and he had two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And unto Joseph was born sons before the years of famine came, which Asenath the daughter of Potipori, priest of On, bore unto him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for Yah, he had made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. And the name of the second called he Ephraim, for Yah had called me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. See, so them Egyptians left with us, but them gonna be, you know what I'm saying, Jeroboam kindreds. And then if you go to then that'll be first Kings 11 verse 26. And Jeroboam the son of Nebat, an Ephrathite, that's the tribe of Ephraim mixed with a little Judah, and of Zerubbabel, Solomon's servant, whose mother name was Zur, a widow woman. Even he lifted up his hand against the king, you know. And Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam. And Jeroboam arose and fled unto Egypt, unto Shushan, That's gonna be his relative, the Mishwish, the Ma peoples. That's gonna be his relative from being of the tribe of Ephraim. You know what I'm saying? Was connected to the Egyptians because Joseph had, you know, two sons by the Egyptian woman, and then you see him being chased to Egypt. All right, and then we can go 300 years, man, probably about a good, man, I say about a good 200 years later, you see the tribe of Ephraim association with the Egyptians. Now, this ain't no good thing. This is a bad thing. All right, you go to Hosea 12. This is in 7, man, I think, let's see what this gonna be. This is in 753 BCE. All right. Ephraim feedeth on wind and followed after the east wind, and he daily increases lies and desolation, and they do make a covenant with the Assyrians, and oil is carried into Egypt. That's breaking covenant right there. Oil is carried into Egypt. Almighty Yah told us not to even fool with the Egyptians or even have no dealings with them. But the tribe of Ephraim is association with them. That's like Jeroboam come out of Egypt with the two Egyptian religions that he said in Bethel and one in Dan, and how that we were sin, and that how we would be driven off the land because of the Egyptian religion, and that how I show all this in Tanakh history, and how can't none of this be changed, and then how that the tribe of Ephraim would be the cause of us losing our heritage, because they never straighten up, and then eventually we would, you know, get Judah, because, you know, the Ephrathites were Judites and Benjamite, Ephraimites mixed, and then how that them folks would corrupt the tribe of Judah, and then how Judah would eventually get on the Egyptian religion, and then how that we would be on that Egyptian religion all the way to King Josiah cleaned it up, man, around about 640 BC. We was on it for 300 years, and then he cleaned it up, and then the Egyptians killed him and put us back on Egyptian religion, and then we would go into Africa, you know, in the book of Jeremiah, and this is what we said. This is what we said. You know what I'm saying? You go to Jeremiah. You go to Jeremiah chapter 44. Chapter 44. And then you get to verse 15, 16, 17, and 18. Then all the men which knew that their wives had burnt incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that dwelt in the land of Egypt, and Pathros answered Jeremiah, saying, as for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Elohim, we will not hearken unto thee, but we will certainly do so whatever thing go forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, our princes, in the cities of Judah, and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of victuals, and were well, and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have been consumed by the sword and by famine. And then we ran into Africa. We was already in Africa when we told Prophet Jeremiah that. And then how that we never came back out of Africa to be reunited with these Israelites right here. We didn't come back out, man, to be reunited with these Israelites when they come home, man, from Babylon. You know, but when they come home from Babylon, we didn't come out, you know what I'm saying, to be reunited with them, the Queen of Heaven worshipers. And then I show how the Queen of Heaven worshipers represent the 99%, all the tribes, and how it never was any 10 lost tribes, and how all the tribes was there during King Hezekiah time and King Josiah time, and we would go into Africa after King Josiah was killed, and then, you know, that's a wrap. And how we still off the promised land in captivity. It been messed up ever since we broke the covenant. All right, Hebrews, these some facts, man, that they can't change is that we broke the covenant during the Babylonian wars. You know, we know who the Jews are. We know the Africans are not Israelites, as well as the natives and all the other peoples that's claiming the Israelite heritage that are not connected to the transatlantic slave trade. It's impossible. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. It's impossible, man, and we're gonna have to start shaking the fakes off. And like I said, that if we don't get these folks out of our heritage, they gonna mislead. They gonna mislead the folks, and the people ain't gonna be able to come in the heritage right because they gonna be connected to the enemies, and the enemies gonna hurry up and guide us to our wrong establishment dealing with heritage if we let some people that are not Israelites pretend to be Israelites and then be a spokesperson for us. Man, we can't have none of that. We can't have none of that. So that's why the Israelite Brotherhood history is designed to shake the fakes off. I'm shaking the fakes off, and we cutting them loose. All right, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. We got to come into our heritage, and we got to take control of it. And how we take control of our heritage is that we show what happened to us in the Tanakh history. All right, Hebrews, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood.